education. We know why. We know the purpose of it. Now on to tackle the processes of education. And there are three main processes which you need to know as a teacher. First process is process of curriculum. Curriculum. Second process that you need to know as a teacher is process of pedagogy. And the third process that you need to know is process of assessment. Okay? Now, the reason why I say these are the three main processes of education is if you look, everything you do revolves largely around these three. I know you do other things such as operations in the school, helping the students during prep time, guidance and counseling, transport, all those things. But I'm talking about what happens in the classroom. Okay, so that's what I mean by these main processes of education. Everything I've also shown you here is very familiar to you. You know what curriculum is, you know what pedagogy is, you know what assessment is. But do you really know it, or is it just familiar? Okay, so I want us to discuss it just to make sure that we know what we are talking about here and it just doesn't remain as something familiar. So what do we mean by processes of curriculum? Our curriculum is done centrally in Kenya. By centrally, I mean by one body, in this case, KICD. And the curriculum they produce, we interact with it through the various curriculum designs. Okay, that's familiar. But who uses and who consumes this curriculum designs? You've seen that these curriculum designs are usually used by, for example, publishers who use it to produce textbooks. This thing is running away. Who use it to produce textbooks. Okay, that's clear, isn't it? The same curriculum designs, you as a teacher, you use them. Teachers, and what do you use it to do? You use it to produce your schemes of work. Okay, take note, I've not said lesson plans. Your schemes of work. That's what you use it for. Okay, so when you go ahead to produce your schemes of work, this part I'm highlighting in yellow here, when you go ahead to produce your schemes of work, that is one of the processes of curriculum. And many other people participate in the process of curriculum, such as the publishers of textbooks, in this other example that I've given you here. Okay, so that should be clear, isn't it? Or at least you have an idea what it is. By the way, curriculum and syllabus, are they the same thing? Okay, I'll ask you about that later. But it's just those familiar words which I'd really like them not to be familiar for you, but for you to really know. Let's go to the next process, process of pedagogy. Pedagogy is basically the arts, the science, or the art, according to me, of teaching. Okay, just how you deliver. The pedagogy for children in PP2 is not the same as the pedagogy for kids in grade 6. Neither is it the same as the pedagogy for kids in grade 9. Those are different kind of children who need different kind of input from you as a teacher. So pedagogy is the entire science and art of delivery. It's actually what you tend to do every day in class. Okay, so once again, identify it as one of the processes, the process of pedagogy. But I'm not going to dwell very deeply into it. And the third one is the process of assessment. And assessment here is critical. It's very important that you understand it. It's actually the one thing that I think is very foundational in CBC. And it's the one thing that actually distinguishes CBC from what we've had before. That notwithstanding, it is a process that you find in any kind of education, assessment. So assessment, in our case in CBC, we do it in many ways. We do it through the various exams. We do it through the various projects. Okay, we do it through the various classroom assessments. Let me just call it class assessments, like that, etc. Okay, we do it in very many ways. So these are the three main processes of education. Remember, what I'm giving you here is just language that you can use. I want you to be capable of using language like this, of saying processes of education, curriculum, pedagogy, assessment. I don't want you to use pedagogy when you mean curriculum, to use syllabus when you mean curriculum. I want you to be capable of actually using these words correctly and to being able to distinguish these things this way. Yeah. So tied to what we talked about earlier, about the purpose of education, these are now the main processes of education. And in the next part of this conversation, we're going to focus more on assessment, because I said it is the one thing that actually makes CBC very distinct. The other two, curriculum and pedagogy, should be familiar to most of you and clearer to most of you, but I'll focus my attention more on assessment.